Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name's Hannah. I am a historian and theatre lover and book lover and all sorts, and today's video kind of covers all of those areas of interest. Now this is strangely topical for me because as of filming this it is Thursday, and this past Monday the Hunger Games Live on Stage opened in London in the Troubadour Canary Wharf, I think it's called. Brand new theatre, brand new show. And if you're like me and you are on theatre, Instagram, TikTok, wherever, you will have seen there was quite a lot of discourse about the opening night. Now this is something that I was really sort of interested in following. I will be 100% clear, I probably will not see this show. So this is not going to be me talking about the Hunger Games on Stage as a show. Like I said, haven't seen it, maybe won't see it because it's just not one of those franchises that I ever really clicked with. But I do know that it was massive. Especially sort of as I was growing up. So I'm 25 now, so when I was sort of 15, 16, it was huge, it was everywhere. And it has fans from all over the world, fans of all different things, so book lovers, film lovers. We're all sort of very excited about this live on stage, The Hunger Games, which from what I've heard is an adaptation of the first book. I've not heard too much about how accurate the show is, because the show is currently in previews. Now, until it has its opening night, whenever that may be, I haven't checked, the show will be in what is called its previews, which means that the show could change up to that point. After opening night, the show will be set, and that is how the show will be performed going forward for its London run. But obviously, because it was The Hunger Games, is this huge bit of intellectual property that has such a far-reaching fan base across different generations and fans of different things, people who maybe don't know that much about the theatre, maybe don't go to the theatre as often, maybe they're more movie people. There isn't that sort of understanding of what a preview means. Now, a lot of shows, when they open, especially if they're sort of touring productions, it doesn't make a difference whether you go on the first night or the last night of that show in that venue. It has been done before, that cast knows what they're doing, they know the space, they've done their tests, whatever, the material has been tried out in front of people, they know what works and what doesn't. For a show like this, which has never been done on stage before, this was its like premiere production, they don't know how that's going to work on stage. The first preview is not going to be exactly the same, probably the same at all, as a show later in the run. So after that opening night, once they've been doing it for 6, 8, 10 months, whatever, it is going to be a completely different show. Now, like I said, I'm not here to talk about the Hunger Games specifically, but where I have the problem with this, because I saw all the discourse on social media, was I don't think there was ever that explanation or understanding of what a preview performance entailed. I will say, I know that the ticket prices for the previews and the actual show, the set show, weren't that much different. If anything, they were probably the same. But I will double check that, and I will put them here somewhere, probably going along the bottom. I'll put them there. As we know, theatre in London is not cheap at the moment. So if you are paying 50, 60, 70 pound for a ticket and you're going to the first ever performance of this thing, you're a massive Hunger Games fan, you go into the first performance and maybe the website does say it's a preview with no explanation of what that means. Of course, you're going to book the first one. You don't want spoilers. You want to be the first people to see it ever, which those people do still have. The people who saw it on that first night will always have that. Did the show go up an hour late? Yes. Did it finish about 11:45? Also yes. But they were still there. They were there for the first performance. But I do think it's unfair that a lot of people probably paid that money, saw that show, without that full understanding that what they were seeing was not the finalised finished product. Now, personally, I've been to one preview performance before. That was at the RSC in Stratford-upon-Avon, and it was to see A Midsummer Night's Dream. This was the beginning of last year. I think I saw it in February of last year, when Matthew Bainton was in it, from Ghosts and Horrible Histories, if you're British or if you're wherever you're from. Basically, it was a little bit of, I don't like to say stunt casting, he is an actor, but he was particularly good in it as well. So he was kind of the reason I wanted to see it. I forgot when tickets went on sale, and I missed out on most tickets. There were a couple of weekday performances, but I needed a weekend, and I found this random Saturday. I was right at the top of the theatre. I think my ticket was about £40. It wasn't super expensive, and it was a really good show. But I think it was 2 or 3 performances before opening night, so it wasn't completely set. I'm sure that had I seen it during its sort of further run at Stratford, or when it went to the Barbican last year in London, I'm sure it would have been slightly different. To the point where we had 3 understudies on for that show, and one of them was still on book for part of it. It was the person playing Puck, because the understudies aren't fully trained up for all their cover roles during the previews, which makes sense. You're still getting to know the show, so you can't be expected to know the show basically in 3 different languages for however many different characters you're playing. So it didn't really bother me. 1, because they were barely on book at all, and 2, because my ticket was cheaper. So had I gone to that show after opening night, I believe my ticket should have been £65, which is £25 less than what I paid for it. Like I said, with the recent opening of the Hunger Games and that not being the case, I think that might be where the issue lies. And it does sort of rub me up the wrong way that there is an understanding that a lot of these people wanting to see this would be sort of mega fans of the Hunger Games. I think it's the same as any of those shows based on intellectual property in London. You don't really get people going to see them if they've got no context. So someone who's never read The Hunger Games or never seen The Hunger Games is not going to be going to see The Hunger Games. In the same way that someone who's never seen Stranger Things is not going to go and watch Stranger Things: The First Shadow. You've got a sort of captive fan base for productions like this. So I don't know that it was necessarily fair on those people who, for them, this sort of franchise is something that they care about a lot. That it wasn't made sort of explicitly clear in that branding or advertising or when you paid for your tickets that there were going to be problems on that first night. I've watched quite a lot of videos about this, listened to interviews about this, because I'm genuinely very interested in how things work in theatre, and I have heard it's not uncommon for preview performances to go up late or even get cancelled because they realise they're not ready, or there's something wrong, something's not working. So yes, I understand people were really lucky to get to see it on that first night, and I'm sure that once you sort of get over that issue of going in an hour late and there being those problems, I'm sure it was an amazing experience. I do just want to touch on quickly about the idea of people coming out of this performance and reviewing it. I've seen a lot on TikTok of people who were there sort of saying, this is my review. Generally speaking, reviews for shows do not come out during previews. Because the show isn't set, so it's kind of not fair to review an unfinished product. Reviews come out for opening night or just after opening night, which, I mean, talking recently when Evita was on in London, I knew I wanted to see it, and then I clocked the opening night was happening, and I said to my family, if anyone wants to come and see it, I'm going to book the tickets now, because as soon as these reviews come out, when people know what to expect, they're going to go like hotcakes, and they did. So I did manage to get tickets for that. But usually that opening night is when reviews will happen, and then the rest of the public understands what is good and bad about this show, or what... It's a really difficult one to explain, because, and I'm quite conflicted about this, because like I said, these tickets weren't cheap. So yes, you are well within your right to have a problem with a show not being finished, or not being finished, but not being what you're expecting, or you've paid this much money, you want this experience at the theatre and you haven't got it. Of course you're going to be upset. But just because of the way that theatre works, that has always been the case. Usually eyes aren't quite so on these first previews. I think this was just a perfect storm. It was a big show. There was advertising for it everywhere. There's been advertising around London for months and months about this show. Brand new theatre as well, so that's another big thing. And yeah, it didn't go off perfectly from what we've all seen. But I do think it's something that they can definitely come back from. I am interested to see the reviews of this show. It could change my mind and make me actually really want to go and see it. I remember really enjoying the first book and the first film, and it was after there that I sort of fell off the bandwagon with it a bit. So if it has fantastic reviews, then I probably will see if I can get a ticket at some point. It's a bit of an awkward place to get to. I'd probably have to do like a matinee and then travel back into Waterloo to get the train. But yeah, it would be a really interesting one to see, and I do wonder if people's thoughts on it will change without the sort of manicness of that first preview and the sort of videos of queues that we all saw of people stretching around the building and stuff. Because like I said in my Anne Boleyn video, the experience of seeing something can be very much your takeaway from that whole situation. Because looking back on it, yes, I really agree with that video that I made, but I do remember enjoying the show as well. But I think it was like the balance of that video ended up being 30 minutes of me saying this didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work, but also it was really good and you should have all gone and seen it. But I think that's just the way that we're wired. I think that's just what happens, especially like I said, when you've paid that much money, you kind of want things to go off without a hitch. Or if that's not the case, producers and whoever is selling these tickets needs to recognise that the value for money in those initial previews is not going to be, by nature of the beast, the same as the value for money for people who've gone to see a show 3-4 years down the line, if it stays open that long. Sort of after that opening night, that is going to be what the standard is. So I think whatever you're going to charge then, you need to charge less beforehand, because otherwise it is just giving people an unfair expectation on what to expect. And it's unfair for everyone. It's unfair for the people watching. It is unfair for the people putting on the show as well, because they've never done it before. That's the first time they've ever done it in front of people. So of course there's going to be hiccups and things aren't going to work the same as when there's not a crowd in the room. And the audience is changed nightly as well. So until you can get your footing with that, I think it's an interesting issue. I don't really know what the point of this video was. I just wanted to sort of put my 2 cents in the game on it, just because it's something that I feel really quite passionately about, because I would also hate for those people who went to see this show. Maybe it's the first play they've been to see, maybe they've been to see a touring musical or something, and they've never seen a play and they went to see that and they thought, well, this is what plays are like and I'm not going to do it again. And that's really, really sad, because I'm sure that had they gone even in 2 weeks' time, when they've had a chance to settle into the building a bit, I'm sure they would have had a much different experience. So I think that's where I'm going to leave this video. It's a very rambly one. I've noticed that chatty, rambly videos seem to be the way this channel is going. If you like that, great, stick around. If you don't, I'm probably going to do some other things as well. I've got a theatre day coming up soon, which also includes a trip to an exhibition. So it's not going to necessarily be a vlog, because the idea of getting my camera out in public and talking to it makes me feel a little bit sick. I've just about got over sitting in my flat and talking to my phone. That feels slightly less weird to me now than it did before, but I am still getting used to it. So yeah, there might be a couple of other videos going up. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I will do something book related at some point as well. Originally this was going to be a booktube channel, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems to be mostly theatre, which I'm not mad about. So if you've enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe. I hate saying this. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like. Let me know in the comments what you thought, if you agree with me. Whoops. That's gone. If you have enjoyed this video, let me know what you thought in the comments. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, if you were there for that opening night. I would be really interested to talk to people and see when they've sort of been away from it for a little bit, once they've had the chance to think about it and thought, oh, actually it was a really good show, or actually, no, I didn't enjoy that. I'd be really interested to hear. So yeah, let me know. Stick around, I will be doing something else soon at some point. But yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.